Kvoid Moronon v'Rabonon, Chavrim Yetzig Deli HaTorah, Manhige Eder, Marbitze Torah, Yedidim B'Reim, all the distinguished guests that are here today. We meet again as every year in the Knessia L'Shem Shamayim, Lil Moed L'Lamed, to learn and share Torah values, but mainly Lishma B'Lasos, to translate these values into our commitments and our daily lives. In the days we spend at these conventions under the banner of Agudah Yisrael, we attempt also to raise our own sights beyond our individual selves. We attempt to address the needs of others, particularly the needs of Klal Yisrael. We've spent an uplifting Shabbos together, hoping to be a Rabbim Ha'osim Es HaMitzvah, to better understand what is the mission of this Rabbim, what ought we be thinking, what ought we to be doing, and of course, in a few single words, the obvious mission of our Rabbim is to be Malba Kvoid Shemayim in a communal sense and for our own neshamas as well. We're here to discuss issues, many of them painful, that confront us. Our tzibur is faced more and more by problems that affect our very nature as Torah Jews, Torah families, Torah learners, Torah practitioners. We come together and we ask ourselves, do we live up to the task to make Avas Torah v'Yirushalayim the primary theme of our lives? Or is the society out there making serious dents in our fabric? We have issues, unfortunately, of Chilul Kvoid Shemayim in our own camp. And outside our camp, in many centrist communities, a new plague called open orthodoxy is lowering the barriers that define Torah life in the Munah, in Beseres Aviseinu, in basic tenets of Ikri Hayadus. And in our own midst, we struggle with the Shidduch crisis at Tzorah Gdolah facing us all. We count our blessings, to be sure. At the same time, our hearts are filled with Shavach V'Hodoyah to the Rebbeinu Shalom for granting us a Nechama B'Kiflayim after the Churban of Europe that has seen the rebirth of a vibrant Torah life in this country and, of course, in Eretz Yisrael. Despite the pitfalls and the areas of pain, we see before us a great grand tzibur of Erle Chayidin, thousands and thousands of families, not only in the Chassidische Welt, in the Olam HaYeshivas, but in the so-called Americanized communities as well. Many thousands of Jews, hundreds of Kehillas, of Shemrei Mitzvah, young and old, committed to Torah Yiddishkeit, to Limud HaTorah, to Achzokas Torah, to Dikduk HaMitzvahs. Abbas Chesed has been brought to new heights. So many young people seek spiritual enrichment, and we've seen this at this convention. We've had, Baruch Hashem, these last few days, many, many new faces, many young people that are trying to become closer to the Rebbeinu Shalom by becoming closer to what the tasks of the hour require. And they see in Agudah Yisrael as the proper instrument, Baruch Hashem, to be able to carry on their lives in a way that they'll be fruitful, not only to their families, but to the Klal Yisrael as well. We see in Agudah Yisrael here and elsewhere. It is a schus to mention that on this Mitzvah Shabbos, to speak about this, to speak Mishvachim Shel Yisrael, and to implore the Eibishter to continue to shower his chasodim on all of us. Hatoiv ki lecholu lechamecha, v'hamrachem ki leisamu chasadecha, ki me'olam kivinu loch. At the same time, there's an underlying concern and worry that pervades us during the present period. Our minds and hearts are focused on Eretz Yisrael and Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh, and on the new sakon of Yishmael confronting our generation. Since Churban Bayis Sheni, Golus Edom has meant Esav as the son of Yaakov, extending from Malchus Roimi into the period of the Crusades, later in Gzeres Tach B'Tat, the pogroms of 1648, and culminating in the Churban of Yahadus Europa. And Golus Edom is still here. We must wait until Achris Hayomim to witness the Pasuk in Chumash, B'yerd Me'yankov, B'hevet Sorid Me'ir, as Rashi explains it there, Ayin Shom. But the Chachmei Hasod speak of Golus Yishmael as an even more fearsome and pernicious Golus. Chaboisai, think for a moment. Since the end of the last war, the tzoros, the radifis, the oppressiveness of Esav upon Yaakov have been relieved to a great extent. Et shepet nishtas, lost a bissel tziru Esav. Somehow he's quieted down, even though the gzeres on Shchita and on Bris Milah in Europe are very disquieting in these terms. We don't know what they mean. But in terms of Hashkochas HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ba'olamai, we see something very interesting. As the pursuit of Yaakov by Esav has somehow been reduced, is Aufgestan Anaya Sakona, the emergence of Yishmael in our day as an ever-threatening force, a Sakona Gedola on Eretz Yisrael and Klal Yisrael. This is a very serious matter. Part of Ikvus of the Mashiach, part of Chevlei Mashiach, the ropes of Mashiach, so to speak, B'Loshen Chazal. And Chevlei Mashiach are very painful and very frightening, as the Gemara tells us. So the Talmidim asked Rab Lozer, Ma yasa odam v'yinotzu mechevlei Mashiach? What does one do to be spared from these Chevlei Mashiach? This painful experience. How should he engage his life to save himself from Chevlei Mashiach? And Rab Lozer said, Yasek b'Torah v'gmilas chasodim. He should study Torah and practice chesed. Rabbi Isai, we ought to be telling this to ourselves at all times, that this is the Eitzah, to be very busy with Limud HaTorah and Avos Chesed. This is the antidote to Chevlei Mashiach. This is the inner kayach, the ruach hapnimi, behind all other efforts b'derech hateva. Limud HaTorah and Avos Chesed are the schus, the shield to Yidden everywhere, especially in Eretz Yisrael, which exists as a kipsa achas ben shivim za'evim, a single sheep exposed daily to the onslaughts of 70 wolves. At a time when uppermost in the minds of us all is the safety, the security of Acheinu B'nai Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael. We must say the Chazal, the Maimah Chazal, on the Posuk, Oim Desoyu Ragleinu B'Sharayach Yerushalayim, the Gemara in Makis. Oim Desoyu Ragleinu B'Melchama, B'Schus Shari Yerushalayim Shoyoiskim B'Teira. The schus, the safety, the security, the bitachon, as they call it, of Yidden in Eretz Yisrael is the Limud Torah that exists in Eretz Yisrael. The Shorim HaMtziyonim Ba'alocha that bring forth Siyata D'Shmaya and simple schus, life, security, that defend us against the Sonim, against Ishmael in our time. Yet, how very ironic it is, at the same time, how dangerous that the powers that be in the government in the state of Israel drastically reduces its help to yeshivas and kollalim. They reduce the welfare support to young growing families who struggle with food, who can't pay the bills to cover the expenses of their children. And then the military experts, the political wizards, wonder why they can't control the new intifada that appears each day on the streets of Yerushalayim. Hashem Yerachem. Rabbi say, all Jews, Ma'aminim, B'nai Ma'aminim particularly, must take this to heart, in addition to our own tefillas that must be geseder gedavnt, bedarf mispal sein, choleis im cholshor, bevakoshes tachnunim bebekavona. Ma yasa odam b'yinotzol mechevle b'shiach, yasik b'teiro, ubekmilis chasodim, said Reb Lozo. The fires of Abbas Torah and Abbas Chesed should burn with a flame in our own hearts, especially in us, living in a Malchus Shel Chesed called America, that has shown the greatest sensitivity to yeshivas and those in need for many years. We must, however, extend this flame of Abbas Torah and Abbas Chesed to our brothers in Eretz Yisrael. There should be no frum kehillah in this country that does not, in one way or another, adopt the kollel in Eretz Yisrael. No one amongst us, despite our many commitments and pressures, is absolved from Achzokas Torah in Eretz Yisrael. We send our children there. We must make them a subject of our concern and an object of our help. All this is one of the forms of Yasik B'Torah B'Gmilas Chasodim that we must keep before our eyes in these awesome times. And when the Aniyim from Eretz Yisrael knock on your door or come to your shul, one cannot only lend a hand, but he must give from the heart. Zapasek and Chumash. No sein titein loy, but loyer alavovcha besitcha loy. Because that's a natural urge sometimes. You can sometimes be Makayim, unfortunately, and it happens all the time. The Welt Nichshel, myself included. No sein titein loy is been Makayim. Aber the loyer alavovcha besitcha loy, dort in Feldteppes. There's something missing. And the Meforshim say in order to answer Taispas Kasha that the following words, Ki bechlal ha'davar hazeh yavarechecha Hashem Elokecha, is said as a schar on the B'layera Levavcha, not on necessarily Nos and Titn Loi. Then Yoneinu, as regards Eretz Yisrael. And by the way, when you hear some of these stories of the Aniyim that come to the door, this Herzplatz, von Agmas Nefesh, von Tzar. This is one of the important ways how our Abbas Chesed should extend to the Erlich Yidden in Eretz Yisrael who come to America and ask for funds. But of course, we mean here those segments of society in Eretz Yisrael that have been very hurt by the cuts, by the reductions, by the slashes, and whatever they received from the Memshala. And it is to them that we have to see to it. It has to become of high priority in our agenda of Abbas Chesed. And in a larger sense, we're all B'nai Eretz Yisrael. Aber Feirish Gemara, on the Pasuk in Tehillim, Uletzion Ye'omar, Ish ve'ish yulad ba, Echot hanoilad ba, V'echot hamtzapeh l'roisa. So we're all B'nai Tzion, Ish ve'ish yulad ba, both they and us. Let me also mention another painful aspect of our situation. A number of misguided individuals in Eretz Yisrael insist on going up to the Har HaBayis in clear violation of the psak of the Gdolei Hador that is also for a Yid to be on the Har HaBayis. Without discussing the halachic imperatives for this psak, the presence of Jews there incites the Arabs. It induces them to a wild sinner that can lead directly to Shvichas Damim. We ask our fellow Jews, stay off the Har HaBayis. Reit sich nicht mit sei. Daven in your shuls and your yeshivas at the Kaisel Maravi. Do not generate the Radifa on Yidden. Have Rachmanis on your own lives and the lives of others. This is not the way to become close to the Shekhinah. There are other ways, better ways. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu enlighten your minds with Seichel HaYosher and Seichel HaTorah. This year is Shemitah in Eretz Yisrael. I've had occasion in Shul to mention the beautiful story about the Panovich Rav. One Shemitah, Rosh Hashanah Banacht, when Shemitah arrived, he bent down and kissed the ground and he said, Good Shabbos, Mama. Shemitah is Shabbos Ha'oretz. And Eretz Yisrael is a Mama to jeden Yid. In Hallel steht, Moshibi Yakeres Abayis, Eim Habonim Semecha. And there are many pshotim in Akeres Abayis, the Akora should become an Eim Habonim. But one of the Ikriya pshotim is Akeres Abayis is the Ikir Abayis. To the Klal Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael is a spouse. Akeres Abayis. To each individual Jew, Eretz Yisrael is a mama, an Eim Habonim Smecha. And the Panovich Rav took the hand of his mother as a Yidin Firzach, and he kissed the ground and he said, Good Shabbos, Mama. What does that mean for us? Again, if we extend our thinking that we're all B'nai Eretz Yisrael, Echad hanoilad bo, v'echad hamtzapeh l'roisa, we must participate and help the Shemrei Shvius in Eretz Yisrael. The Chazar Nish Zchus Yogan Aleinu, the Kavamiyas Rav der Alta Zeichat Tzadik Levrocha, Rabbi Yamin Mendelssohn, laid down the Yesodis of Shmiras Shvius in Eretz Yisrael in a way that one does not have to resort to any kinds of heterim. But Eretz Yisrael should show its Kedusha in Shmiras Shvius. And it has enjoyed, in so many instances, the bracha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'tzivisi es b'chos yilachem. The Keren HaShviyas needs help. I think tonight on the program, you'll be listening to one of the Shemrei Shviyas in Eretz Yisrael. A very interesting, beautiful person. But not to do any work on the Suddis and to be trained as to how to observe Shviyas requires financial help, especially as a ganz Jahr is kemat gonish novus teton on the part of the farmers. And we must be of help, and we must adopt that as one of our priorities in this year in the way we connect with Eretz Yisrael. My Rabbi say, what the Shabbos that zelt mit the Hamas here. There was a Yid, was hat sich gedreht auf der Gassen earlier in Borough Park and later in Flatbush, Mendel. Some of you remember him. He passed away recently. A modern Yid, a mysterious Jew, bedraggled. It was not easy to stand next to him. He found his way each night into the home of a tzaddik and a tzaddikis who will remain, who are here tonight and will remain nameless. But Mendel had some interesting things to say. Mendel hat gefragt a Shaila, perhaps adding a few words to the Shaila. Steht doch, man darf kicken Gitter für Yid. Habe Donis Odom lekaf schus. And the Gemara learned this out from Betzedek Tishbet Amisecha. Man darf kicken Git. Darf man mit Schus sein. Das ist doch da drin. Ja, ob das ist da drin? Was ist Lifnei Mishuras Adin? Hat gefragt. Ob das ist da drin? Was ist Lifnei Mishuras Adin? Hat Mendel geantwortet, wer sagt, man darf kicken? A profound statement. Aber darf man kicken, geht auf Ayid. Wer sagt, man darf kicken? Rabbi say, we become a society of kickers. Lookers. We look at Yenim and make comments. There are many self-appointed Mavinim amongst us, unfortunately, ready to sound off on anything and everything. These Mavinim have no compunctions about opinionating on whatever goes on in the Jewish world and the Torah world especially. And very often, as a result of that curse of technology called the blogs, engage in cynicism and zilzal talmidei chachamim and downright chutzpah. Der Kotzke Rebbe hat gesagt, a Yid darf von sich nicht da rauszukicken und jenem nicht da reinzukicken. An ehrlicher Yid should behave with humility and understatedness and speak with kavod HaTorah and respect talmidei chachamim and not appropriate himself as a commentator and a maven and everything that goes on. We would like to see in our children this kind of respect, this kind of being an anvesonish valberach, this kind of kavod abrius, kavod HaTorah. This is what the older generation would like to see. So, how do you expect the younger generation to think when they hear sometimes their parents making derogatory remarks on the quote system in the Torah world today learning after the chasana, having to support kinder, redemis, and so on. This system hat geratet in der Welt, we all ought to know. Yes, there are questions and issues about individuals, and parnasa is an overriding question sometimes, all the time, and they must be addressed individually, but not to become self-styled commentators on the Torah scene today. Wer sucht, der man darf kicken? Wer sucht, der man darf zu viel reden? Perhaps most of you don't, but an older person like myself remembers clearly an earlier period of Orthodox Jews, Shemri Shabbos, here in America. Daveners sind es gewesen. Shemri Shabbos, Woile Yidden. But a generation that had little vision and little passion for Haromas Keren HaTorah, for raising Limud HaTorah to such a value, to give it the high priority that we like and we enjoy today to see in thousands of younger light that are Kiyim and Lomdim and all Mektsayris Hashas. The yeshiva, quote, system has transformed our world. It has produced Talmidei Chachamim of major stature. It has produced a Tzibur Kodesh, rich in Ahavas Torah and Yerushalayim, ubeschuz zeh, ubeschar zeh, beautiful generations, Torah ehrliche Kinder, ubeschuz zeh, ubeschar zeh, asach gvirische Yidden that are ready to step up and support all the Tzorchei Yam Kodesh. What I mean to stress is that we must curb the urge to opinionate, because opinionating, wenn es glitzach, means poor judgment, unfair comments, and unwise chinuch. As a cheshbon nefesh that we would like to make at all times, but especially each yochid when he comes to these conventions, I'm sure undergoes many thoughts upon how he can enrich his life and become closer to the Chayvus Ha'adam B'Olamai. And therefore, wir dürfen wollen werden bessere Jiden, mehr Deheuben, mehr Teuradik in our thinking, in our speech. And as we discuss the many issues at hand, and we hope and feel the Siyata D'Shmaya in our own efforts, in the work of Agudah Yisrael, the Eibishter soll benchen und schenken lange Jahren ad Bias Agoyel. We must also be aware that our neshamas, each of us, him and her, should strive to become more refined, more closer to the Rabbeinu Shalom. That's an obligation that's incumbent on every Jew, especially Ehrliche Yidden, and thus enhance Kvod Shemayim as a Rabbi Ma'aseh as a mitzvah. V'hi rotzen shetishre shchina b'maaseh yadeinu.